welcome to Viewpoints. With me today is Thomas Healy. Thomas is a lieutenant with the New York City Fire Department. Welcome, Thomas.
Thank you, Max.
Now, you just got finished writing a thesis.
Yes.
Fighting tomorrow's fires today.
Correct.
Tell me what that means, what it's about.
The idea of fighting tomorrow's fires today is to leverage intelligence towards scenario-based exercise design. What we wanted to do was take information we learned from real-world events and after-action reports, incorporate that into exercises to better prepare the fire department.
Outstanding. Why would you choose this topic?
For the last couple of years, I've been the Director of Exercise Design for the City Fire Department's Center for Terrorism and Disaster Preparedness. And in doing so, my job was to coordinate the center's exercise department. We do exercises with the city agencies, the transportation agencies, private sector, healthcare.
I know you put a lot of work, a lot of effort into this. What did the research tell you? What were some of your findings?
The research I did, I got 100 after-action reports scattered throughout the country, and I coded them for recommendations and objectives. And I wanted to see if there was a consistency between the objectives that we were putting in future exercises based on past exercises and past real-world events, figuring that if recommendations came out of an after-action report, they should find their way into future exercises.
Gotcha. So instead of, if I'm hearing you correctly, instead of just training and going on and then setting up another training exercise, you wanted to see if we were actually progressing and learning from what we were doing.
Exactly. And I wanted to see that if we had an after-action report from a real-world event and then followed it up with an exercise, and then again the event, or as they hopscotched one after the other, if we were showing improvement or saying status quo.
I know you've done a lot of research on this and you've analyzed your findings. What are some challenges that you foresee for either adoption by your agency of your recommendations or other agencies picking up your recommendations and going with them?
I'm not sure the intelligence communities and the exercise design communities communicate. I don't see that they're on the same page, and I feel like they should be. I feel like that the intelligence cycle and the exercise cycle should intersect, and my feeling is that they should intersect at the planning phase, so that as intelligence finds information, analyze it and disseminates it, exercise should pick it up at that point, bring it into the exercise cycle where they will develop and conduct an exercise, conduct evaluation, and then give that feedback back to the intelligence community so each community knows what the other is producing and what the other needs.
Now, that makes a lot of sense to me as I sit here today. Were you surprised that we weren't already doing that?
I think so, and I think when I looked at the after-action reports, I found some recommendations that repeated over and over again. And one of the interesting ones was documentation. Documentation showed up as a recommendation, I believe it was over 50% of the time, yet was included in 0 exercises.
Wow.
And in order for agencies and communities to get paid, documentation is key. So I was very surprised to find that.
Now, you did quite a bit of research and you looked at a number of after-action reports. Did you find anything in there that was controversial or unusual?
Like I mentioned with the documentation, I found a lot of recommendations that were not included in exercises at all. And part of my research it showed the gap between recommendations that would show up repeatedly and the ones that were not included at all. And I found that to be quite surprising.
Interesting. Now, I imagine, as with other cohort members who have written theses, you're very passionate about what you wrote about. And in doing your research, I imagine that there might have been some things that you wish you could have spent more time on. Can you talk about something that you found in your research that if you had another 6 months to research, that you would have liked to have gone into further?
The research I found, when I was searching for after-action reports, I found a site called wisconsinwatch.org, and it's a section that coordinates Wisconsin after-action reports. And it was a really good resource to pull a series of reports. And one of my recommendations is to build something like that in the city, kind of like a New York City lessons learned information sharing, where if we develop a citywide exercise design program and build the lessons out for the entire city to share, I think the whole city would benefit from that. And I would like to have had more time to build that, to develop that process.
Outstanding. Now, isn't it true that early on one of our cohort members said that the fire department does what they do with absolutely no intelligence whatsoever?
That was true. I was surprised at that finding myself.
I had to get that on record. Isn't it true that early on, one of our cohort members actually said the fire department does what they do with absolutely no intelligence whatsoever?
It's true. I believe it was a law enforcement professional that said that, and I completely disagree with that statement. I find the fire department to be in the forefront, especially the New York City Fire Department, in groundbreaking fire service intelligence.
Outstanding. That's all the time we have for Viewpoints today. I'd like to thank Thomas for joining us, and
Thank you,
thank
Max.
you for joining us as well.
Thank you.